Hey y'all, I'm Lisa. I live in a van. This is Matt, my buddy. He also lives in a van. Matt's with Cenjoythejourney.today. How long have you been on the road, Matt? You want to introduce yourself to the
Sure,
people?
sure. Hey everybody, my name is Matt Alexander with Cenjoythejourney.today. This is my co-captain, Mr. Wilson Flynn, and we are out on the road. We have been on the road for about 2 years, traveling and living full-time in my van White and '05 Dodge Sprinter van.
And we just finished a weekend at a van gathering, and now we're at like the after party of the van gathering. So we're in a circle of like 20 vans that Matt helped to organize and pick a spot for us all to go to.
And these crazy kooks might run in and yell at us randomly. So
yeah, you might hear some drones and some action, some dogs and things like that. But I wanted to talk with Matt today. The two of us have had an experience that we think is super important to share, and it's something that nobody talks about. And this is advice to you, future van life couples, from one half of former van life couples.
I started out on the road with my girlfriend at the time. We both went into the van together and built the van out over about a 3-month period. She was working at the time, so was involved somewhat, but we never really had a discussion about how this was going to go down, who was paying for what, and what would happen if we decided this wasn't going to work out for us. And that's really why Lisa and I wanted to talk to you guys, because we think it's super valuable to learn from our experience in order to make sure that you don't make maybe the same hiccups that we did.
Same, yeah. And I had a boyfriend in a van for a short period of time, but we renovated the van together, and then we actually had a legal dispute afterwards, which lasted for several months and cost a lot of money. And my only advice to you regarding lawsuits is to always do everything you possibly can to avoid them. They're the worst thing ever. Pay, and just go. Just move on with your life. So we really just wanted to share with you because, you're basically getting married without a prenup. Like you're making this huge investment typically without an exit plan.
Yep.
So we have some tactical tips that we'd like to kind of chat through, and maybe we have some different perspectives on that too.
For sure. So I think the first thing that we both identified that wasn't something that we really thought about right off the bat, and it seems like it would be a no-brainer, but really setting up a prenup, setting up an agreement formalized in writing that allows you to lay down exactly what is going to happen, who owns what, and what would happen if you guys decided to split. And that's really the big issue that I think we both had was some people decide to purchase a vehicle with another person. That can get really dicey and requires both people to agree on all of the little details, especially in a time period when you're breaking up or broken up and maybe you don't like each other too much. That is not when you want your negotiating skills to be tested, and that is something that we're trying to jump in front of here. So make sure you get a agreement and you actually sit down with your significant other. It's a really difficult conversation, and it's probably why I didn't do it, because you have to sit here and say, hey, look, we may not work out, and if we don't, I don't want to deal with this and have to have this conversation then. And we definitely think that that's the best option. So I would highly recommend doing a prenup.
Definitely. And, van life is hard. And you never know what's going to happen in life in general, So you have to plan for the worst. That's what contracts are for. They're taking a good time and they're planning for the worst case scenario. And before I go any further, I have to say that I am a lawyer, but I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm not your attorney. I'm just telling you as a friend some advice that I have and, that we have to share with you. So I think that there's lots of different routes that you can go with it, but the first thing that comes to mind of like the two options would be if you are buying the van together, 50-50, or if one person is buying this van and how, the ownership of the actual van. And so with you and your ex,
we split it. We went 50-50 on our costs, and it seemed like a good idea in the beginning. But just from my experience, when we decided that we wanted to split up, it created a lot of dialogue that was a little tough to maneuver because there was a lot of time that was put into this bill. There was a lot of hours of work that were put in that don't necessarily have a dollar amount, but yet need to be evaluated when you come to a conclusion on how much money each person is deserved. And so that really created a gray area for me that caused a lot of problems with how much money each person was owed and how much each person put into the project. So I would recommend, and I have learned that in my opinion, it's best for one or the other person to take on the financial commitment of purchasing the van. Therefore, it's their vehicle, and it makes it a lot more clear on how things are going to end.
And you mentioned something about if you do it the other way, and if you do purchase the van together, you said something that was really valuable about how the title needs to be designated.
100%. So what I learned is that when you establish a title and you have two people on the title, if you decide to put and or, it makes a huge difference legally. So the example would be and first, meaning that me and my partner would need to be at the DMV to make any decisions on the title. Or, which is what I decided to go with, allows one of the two people that are on the title to make a decision. The reason why this can be very dangerous is that the other person can decide to remove you from the title if they see fit, or you could do that to them. I'm not going to go into it, but this can be a very dangerous thing and not only put you out there liability wise, but cause you a lot more drama than is necessary. And so I highly suggest, if you do go into it together, that you say and with the title so that both people have to make a decision before anything is made.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Another thing I want to mention is a vehicle is a depreciating asset. So when you each invest $5,000 each in a van, you are not going to get that money back when you eventually sell the van. You know, that asset is depreciating now. And so when you invest money into this vehicle, like, I mean, it's a little bit different with camper vans because you are improving the vehicle, but I don't think that it's right for you to assume that you're going to get your exact financial investment back necessarily. And so that's why you need to talk about it ahead of time, because one person might be like, well, I put in $5,000 and now I want that back. And it's, you know, I mean, legally, who knows what a judge or different judges might say, but it's something to keep in mind that, you know, you are putting money at risk. And just to finish that thought is also, if you help your fiance or significant other paint their house, and if you spend weeks and weeks painting their house with them, like, you can't, if they dump you, you can't say, hey, I want my labor, I want my time back, you know? But, you know, with this van, it's like, this is a project with your intention, you want to live in it together. So just think about those rules when you're making assumptions, because
But I think the good question with that is, how do you value that, and where, like, what do you use to find the depreciation? Because I ran into this problem. I had my significant other at the time was like, I want all of every penny that I put into this vehicle, even though we lived in the vehicle together for an extended amount of time. We didn't pay rent because of that. We were using the vehicle, putting miles on the vehicle, and yet every penny was expected back. So I have a real question, like, how do you use a number, and where do you where do you get that?
Yeah, and I don't know if there are answers to that. I mean, I know that there's kind of depreciation with houses, like there's ways that taxes depreciate houses, but I think it might just be something you have to agree on or decide, because
ahead of time,
because you got the enjoyment of living in the van, but so you have to kind of think about it ahead of time and figure out how that's going to go.
Yep. You mentioned the importance of documentation.
Oh,
Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yes. Okay, so everything needs to be in writing. Everything needs to be in writing. When you break up, everything needs to be in a text message, a Facebook message, I mean, I wouldn't even do voicemail. Like, everything has to be in writing. And so with my ex and I, once we broke up, every single thing was in one email thread. And it was like very, very long, but it was all in one email thread. And in that email thread was an agreement where, he said, give me X, Y, and Z, and I will walk away from your life forever.
Okay.
And so I gave him X, Y, and Z. But then later he came back and he sued me because he was mad. He just changed his mind. And that's the thing, is that anyone can sue anyone at any point in time for anything. If you find a lawyer, Craigslist lawyer, you found a Craigslist lawyer.
Ooh.
By the way.
That's where I go.
You know, I mean, if you find somebody to sue you, you're going to deal with the lawsuit. Oh, and then that makes me think of this next point, which is, I think you got to, like, I think that what you did in your situation, I think that it was obviously the best thing for you, like, where you were just like, okay, here's the money back.
Yeah.
Because really, it's not about justice. It's not about what's right and wrong. It's about moving on with your life.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to pay for that sometimes.
That's where I was. I just said, do I want to deal with this person longer with more drama, more phone calls, more time away from things I want to be doing? No, I didn't. I didn't want to have it on my back. I didn't want to have this stress of, you know, her trying to call the cops and say the vehicle's stolen, and all of this unnecessary worry is just, it's not worth the numbers. And I tried to kind of go back originally and get into the details and could never figure a number. So I just ended up giving her everything she asked for. But, you know, at the end of the day, I feel good about it. I am happy that I was able to get out of it without a lawsuit.
Yeah.
You know, like when we talked about this originally, you were going through it in the very beginning. You were just starting, I remember. And I was like, you were the red flag for me. Like, get this shit done, Matt.
Yeah.
And I am happy to say it is done
Wow.
and through and lawsuit free. So,
yeah,
but
it's bad.
it's a learning lesson. I mean, and that's why we want to share this with you guys, because nobody's talking about this, and it happens all the time. And so there's no reason that this discussion and many discussions like this shouldn't be happening in our community, so that we can learn from each other and not make the same mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what else did we have on there? Mediator.
Oh, mediator. Okay, yeah. So I think that this is a good thing to do as well. So when you're doing your prenup and you decide, you know, who's putting in what money, if you decide to buy the van together and then you break up, depending on your financial situation, you may decide that if we break up, we're going to sell the van. So you need to know if that's what you're doing, right? Or I'm going to buy you out. And you should probably have an either or option on there. Like, you know, if we break up at a point where neither one of us can or wants to buy the other one out, we're going to sell the van.
Yeah.
And the profits are going to go this way. If one person wants to keep it, this is how they can pay it out. And maybe you guys can even have like a payment plan on there, you know, like if you're planning for the future.
But how much money do you decide? Like, how do you decide how much, and how do you just like that just for me is still that gray area that is tough.
It's tough. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
It's tough.
Okay.
But I mean, you could maybe try to talk to van builders. You know, you could think about you could base it off of the market value of the van when you're selling it, maybe. Yeah. There's a lot of ways you can it is tough.
Yeah, because I actually almost went into an agreement with my ex where I said, hey, I'll either pay you this amount now, or I will pay you a percentage of the van if I sell it for this amount. And I ended up not doing that because, again, it extended the time I had to be in contact with this person and continue to have to deal with it. And so it wasn't a move, but I thought about it. And I don't know, it felt a little like a slippery slope, and I'm glad I didn't do it, but, you know, just worth sharing.
Yeah, and that makes me jump back to the mediator that you mentioned. So in the prenup, I think it's really important to designate a mediator. Yeah. So, I mean, you probably should each pick a friend. Pick a friend that is, you know, your most responsible friend that you trust to be kind of even keeled, and have that person or those two people help facilitate some of this communication, because you are divorcing and you have a very valuable, expensive asset between you. And if you're breaking up, it's possible that maybe there's some power dynamics there, you know, and you just want to make sure that you're protected.
A lot of bitterness, maybe a little spitefulness.
Yeah. So, yeah, designate a friend, have everything in writing, and, you know, sit down and just be honest. I mean, if you're going to live... Oh.
It's getting wild out there.
We're about to join the party.
Ow!
If you're about to live in this amount of space with someone 24/7, you kind of need to have these conversations, and it might even bring you closer together if you're able to approach this and talk about this.
Yep. More mature, take it in the beginning, have the communication so you both understand where you stand and how things would go. I just think that's a very mature way of doing it. I wish I would have done it. I've learned that that is the way to do it, and we definitely wanted to pass that on and share with you guys.
Yeah, awesome. Sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
Oh, of course.
This has been great.
More in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you like this video, subscribe. We should do more of these. Let us know what you think about this, because we have a lot to say. We want to help you. So if you want more of this, let us know.
Until next time, guys, enjoy your journey.